Now, one of the things I want to talk about before we get started is I want to do a James Lindsay update. Because of course, last night, Daddy Lindsay was upset about me on Twitter, saying things that he didn't like. And so he posted a tweet. I guess he was trying to call me in instead of calling me out, which of course James would never try to call me out because that's something only a woke leftist would do. And James would never do that. Maybe James was trying to call me in. As the kids say. Well, I didn't appreciate James Lindsay calling me in. I mean, he's allowed to do whatever he wants to do. It didn't really bother me or anything. And I did a nice little rant about it. And basically, the substance of my rant is, James, you're not teaching your audience things that they need to understand, even though you understand them. And I know you understand them. And you know I know you understand them. But guess what, James? Your audience does not understand them because you do not teach them clearly what they need to know. And the reason I know that is that I hear from James Lindsay's audience all the time once they discover me and they come to one of my streams and they go, holy shit, I now understand this. I've been listening to James for years and I never understood it because he doesn't teach it clearly and he's so verbose and he uses his flowery language and he's all over the place. But you explained it in a way I could understand. Well, that's my specialty. It's not James's specialty. Now, no shade on him for that. And again, like, not everyone can do what I do, and I understand that. I've always had a very, like, practical mindset when it comes to this stuff. I like breaking things down in the easiest possible language. And so it would make sense that I'd be better at it than him, and that's no shade. We all have our roles to play, man. I'm not going to go and read fucking Marcuse and Hegel and Foucault and all that bullshit. I'm not going to do it. So thank God he is. But the fact of the matter is that James Lindsay is now starting to talk about parental rights, all of a sudden discovering the issue that the things that the left are doing are going to deeply impact parental rights. And I just think it's a little ironic that I've been screaming about this and the abolish the family stuff for literally years. Literally years. I have made more abolish the family content than anyone on the internet, showing people what this is and explaining it and explaining how it relates back to capitalism and how it relates back to everything else that they're doing and how it relates to gender ideology, etc., etc., etc. And then James acts as though he's a fucking genius of the fucking world for just discovering that parental rights are under attack. And so excuse me if I'm like, bro, you still aren't teaching your audience what they need to know. So Paul today on Twitter tagged me, and I'm going to prove to you guys. I'm going to prove to you guys that James Lindsay is not teaching his audience what they need to know about this, which is really my... Listen, man, James, you can literally steal my talking points, bro. Steal my fucking talking points. Pretend you made them up yourself. I don't really care. God knows you've done it before. But can you please, for the love of God, actually teach your audience what is going on, because you have a much larger audience than me, James, and this is actually fucking important. And if your ego is more important to you than teaching your audience what is going on, then you are the problem. I have been screaming about this shit for years. You have a much larger platform than I did. You followed me up until you blocked me on Twitter for criticizing Moms for Liberty. You know this. I don't know why you didn't just take my talking points fucking years ago and teach them that, because this is like one of the most important fucking issues that you could be talking about, and you refuse to do it in a clear and coherent manner. And I'm not going to apologize for criticizing him on this, because I'm 100% right about every fucking thing that I'm saying. And now I'm going to prove that. So Paul, and I have no shade against Paul. I actually like Paul a lot. Paul is a good dude, okay? I don't have a bad thing to say about him. But Paul does not watch my content. And I know that. And that's cool, man. That's cool. Paul is doing here what all of the different content creators do when they're trying to smooth something over, which is that Paul doesn't watch my content. Paul doesn't know what I've been talking about. Paul doesn't understand this as well as he thinks he does. And again, I don't mean any offense by that, because I think you're a good dude, bro. I really, really do. But When Paul said to me today, "You have been doing great work raising awareness about wokeness, socialism, etc., but I don't understand your attacks on James. He has been writing about this and talking about it for the past for years. Here is a few examples." Here is how I know that Paul hasn't been watching my content, and no one's obligated to watch my content, man. You really, you're not obligated to watch my content. But the thing of it is that people like Paul who only follow James and do not follow me, they don't know how much they don't know. And the reason that they don't know how much they don't know is because James is not fucking teaching them. Let me show you what Paul showed me as examples and proof that James Lindsay is teaching about abolish the family and social reproduction theory and how it all relates back to capitalism and abolishing private property, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Let me show you the proof that James Lindsay is absolutely teaching the same things I've been to his audience. Okay, let's just take a look. The first is a screenshot of an article on New Discourses from November 22nd, 2022, after I started teaching this stuff. The video, this is titled The Marxification of Education Workshop, All Sessions. Now, I'm not going to take anything away. His Marxification of Education stuff is great. His Marxification of Education stuff is great. I'm not taking anything away from that. That's not my point. Education has been stolen from us and our children. Yes, stolen. It was deliberately transformed from within into something that is barely education at all anymore. Instead, it's a systematic programming of thought reform, brainwashing into neo-Marxist beliefs and activism. How has this been accomplished? The formal name for the transformation is the critical turn in education, which turned education from traditional models of pedagogy to critical pedagogy, the application of teaching critical theory to and through the education system. Its purpose to overcome what Marx refers to as the problem of reproduction, by which stable societies reproduce themselves from one generation to the next, essentially through institutions involving children, like religion, family, media, and especially of education. Here, New Discourses founder James Lindsay summarizes this turn in the first of 4 presentations of the Marxification of Education. Does that teach what abolish the family is? If I just read you this description, does that teach you what abolish the family is? Does that teach you the reason they want to abolish the family? Does that teach you how they're abolishing the family? Does that teach you the activists that are pushing abolish the family? No. No. I'm sorry. He's not teaching it. Just because he has the problem of reproduction doesn't mean he's teaching it. It's social reproduction theory, James. This is not fucking hard. No, this is not teaching it. It's not even close to teaching it. Not teaching it. Bot says, if I didn't know what you already taught me, I wouldn't understand it at all. Exactly. It's hard to follow. Beth couldn't pick up on that at all. Stony, did he teach it? Did he teach the abolish the family stuff in these? You listen to all of them. Did he teach it? Fendermean says it's too many words. Nanopie says no. Two Ladies says it doesn't even explain how they're teaching it. Reagan says it's not very good at all. It's like the introduction to a paper. He left out the meat and the main points. Stony, who listened to all 4 of these and also is a regular on my channel, says he ain't teaching it, bro. Maria says no. He's not teaching it. Okay, let's look at the next example that Paul sent me. The Theft of Education, September 2022. Also after I started teaching this. How have radicals on the dialectical left, specifically woke Marxists, stolen education from our children? The answer is called critical pedagogy, which was developed on the back of the great Marxist religious revivalist Paulo Freire. Critical pedagogy uses Freire's ideas to solve what mid-century Marxists refer to as the problem of reproduction. There it is again, James. They use the term social reproduction theory explicitly, James. Why aren't you teaching your audience that? Which is the idea that socialists tend to reproduce the... which is the idea that societies tend to reproduce themselves, and especially that education can be designed within an existing system to reproduce the system it produces. Marxists thought that the Marxists through the second half of the 20th century believed the problem of reproduction might be fatal to their ambitions. He's still not teaching it. This is not teaching it. It's not even explaining what it is. Two Marxists of the period, Paulo Freire and the critical theorist Herbert Marcuse, were more hopeful. In fact, they were optimistic about a utopian vision and laid out various programs through which they believed it could be achieved. They offered a partial solution to the problem of reproduction, and this in turn offered a renewal of enthusiasm from the neo-Marxist faith. Not only did Freire succeed in creating a utopian revival in the religion of Marxism, though he also laid down the tools to steal education right from out from under our noses, starting in the mid-80s, thanks to tireless efforts of Marxist educator named Henry Giroux. Henry, by the way, is not one of the people pushing social reproduction theory in the United States. We've watched Henry on this channel. He doesn't push it. American colleges of education started taking on Freire's methods whole hog and developing them into radicalizing academic failures and installed throughout our schools today. Social emotional learning, which steals our... So, is that a clear explanation of what abolish the family is and why it's important and why socialists are focused on it? Does that teach it? No. Let's look at the last example. It just says Freirean. That's it. So apparently James Lindsay's way of teaching abolish the family, which is the thing that's really attacking parental rights in this country, which is being driven, James, by Sophie Lewis and Emmy O'Brien and Chidi Bhattacharya and all these other fucking socialist activists. They lecture about it all over the world, James. Sophie Lewis literally on a world tour in Europe right now. She'll come back to Philadelphia at some point where she works at the University of Pennsylvania. Emmy O'Brien just did a whole fucking national book tour last year lecturing about this. You can also look at Jules Gill Peterson, who's the professor at Johns Hopkins University who pushes this crap. And none of them ever talk about Paulo Freire. Now, I'm not saying that Paulo Freire is unimportant because I do think he is important. But none of what James Lindsay is teaching gets to the heart of the matter, and none of it informs his audience what is going on or who is pushing it in this country and what they need to watch out for in their everyday lives around any of this. I don't mean to be a dick, but this is just reality. And what I responded to Paul with was, number one, I didn't attack James. I responded to James. And what I did is pointed out the flaws in what he is doing. Now, in my book, and I know I'm maybe crazy for thinking this, are you guys are the James Lindsay stands making the argument that I'm not allowed to criticize James Lindsay? Are people really making that argument? Because it is beyond obvious that James Lindsay is not breaking down these concepts in a way that normal people can understand. I don't even know why we're arguing about this. He's good at a lot of things. He's not good at that. And I'm tired of pretending otherwise. I am fucking tired of it. When I have to hear from people in James's audience literally all the time, in my small little rinky-dink YouTube channel, in my small little corner of the internet, that I am the one that is explaining it in a way that they can understand when James has not, that is fucking irresponsible of him. It is fucking irresponsible. If he understands what the problem is, and I do believe he understands it, because he is a genius, I'm not taking that away from him, but if he understands what the problem is, and if he is not explaining it to his audience, that is fucking irresponsible. Assuming he cares about actually solving the problem, which I actually don't think he cares about because I think he knows we're going to lose. I think he is very clear on the fact that we're going to lose and why would I even bother? I'm just like, he's muttering around in his corner of the internet and that's fine, bro. But if you're just going to mutter around in your corner of the internet and do the academic things that you want to do and you don't actually care about informing the public anymore, can you please just be fucking honest about it? Because the attacks on parental rights is actually one of the most important things going on today, because if the nuclear family falls, we are all fucked. and the nuclear family is going to fall at this rate. And I think it's going to be 10 to 15 years. That's what we're talking about. Do you want to have kids? Do you want to have kids that you have parental rights over? Because we're going to lose parental rights 10 to 15 years tops at the way things are going. And I can point out exactly who's doing it, and I can point out exactly who's responsible for it. And it's not Palafieri and Henry Giroux, James. No, wrong. Those are not the people who are pushing it. Henry Giroux is over 80 years old, James. He's like on the verge of retirement. There's a whole new generation of these people, and they're not pushing it through the schools as much as you damn well think they are. They're using gender ideology for that. That's true. But they're pushing it in a million other ways as well. James, there are literally fucking socialist revolutionary architects, that is actually a real job title, who are figuring out how to architect all of society in order to eliminate the nuclear family just by gently nudging people in that direction. And that has nothing to do with Palafieri, and has nothing to do with Henry Giroux. It has nothing to do with the Marxification of education. It has nothing to do with critical pedagogy. It has nothing to do with any of that. So can we start being honest about this, please? And I will criticize him if I damn well please, because it is irresponsible that no one else is saying this. Goddamn irresponsible. And in addition, none of those points that Paul gave me as evidence, and again, I like Paul, I really, really do, good guy, but none of those points disprove what I said. In fact, it only proves what I said, because even in those excerpts, he's not teaching it clearly. I mean, it really makes me question, does James even know what's going on? Does he? I don't think he does. Now, let's just do our due diligence. I just want to do our due diligence here. Let's go to new discourses. Let's look up the keyword on new discourses of family. Family versus the woke cult. Okay. That's about family members getting taken over by the mind virus. Queer education, American judiciary, Hooters, joke's on you. I don't see any abolish the family. Do you see any abolish the family? Do you see any abolish the family? I don't see any abolish the family on new discourses. Maybe on his YouTube channel. Maybe on his YouTube channel he's covered it. Maybe. Let's go in and see. Why isn't he clicking into the YouTube channel? I just want to go into the YouTube channel. Why aren't you working? Maybe I need to reload. All right, that's not working. Of course. Let's go to my YouTube channel. You want to look at my YouTube channel? Let's look family. On my YouTube channel. What the Communist Manifesto says about abolishing the family. Anti-capitalism in the nuclear family. How to speak socialist. That's full of abolish the family stuff. Leftists really do want to abolish the American family. Abolish the family. Abolish the biological family. Abolish the biological family with our fave Sophie Lewis. Social reproduction theory. Abolish the family from Yale. That's Chidi Bhattacharya. Abolish the family with Emmy O'Brien. Abolish the family queen. Sophie Lewis returns. How socialists plan to have kids after they abolish the nuclear family. Communist activist Emmy O'Brien says the family is racist and should be abolished. The future of the family at the University of Chicago. We just watched this one this past week. This is a pretty great episode of Socialism Saturday. Why the Marxist left wants to abolish the family. Abolish the family at the University of Pennsylvania. A different abolish the family at the University of Pennsylvania. Different lecture. Communists discuss abolishing the family and they really mean it. Marxists demand, am I making my point here? Am I making my point? I have probably created over 100 fucking hours of content focused specifically on abolish the goddamn family. And the answer that the James Lindsay stands are giving to me is because he talked about the problem of reproduction one time in a way that he didn't even explain what it was. In a paper about Palafieri, who is not even involved in the argument that I'm making. That's proof. I'm sorry, James, but I am ahead of you on this. And if you don't like it, bro, maybe you should watch any number of the Socialism Saturdays that I've done on this. You should look at any amount of the content that I've created about this. And if you can't take criticism, then that makes you no different than the woke left, bro. So you can keep criticizing, you can keep crying on Twitter all you want that the mean woman who has taught more people about abolish the family and the attacks on parental rights than you have is pointing out your fucking failings. Brooklyn said, it's not his thing. It is what it is. And that would be fine, Brooklyn. That would be fine if James wasn't currently presenting himself as the fucking savior of parental rights when he doesn't even understand how they're being attacked. It would be, I would have no issue if he was like, you know what? Not my thing. I'm doing this other thing over here. Cool, man. We all have priorities. Not everyone needs to work on everything. But for James to be presenting himself as the goddamn savior and claiming that he's educating people about this when he's obviously and clearly not, I find that fucking offensive given the amount of time that I've put into teaching people about this over the past several years, longer than fucking he has. And I'm not going to get told by James Lindsay stands that I'm the one that's criticizing, I'm attacking him unfairly. I am not attacking him unfairly. It's not my fault he chose not to focus on this. If James wants to behave responsibly, he can get himself up to speed on what's going on in the same way that I did. That's all I'm going to say about it. Because that was way more of a rant than I anticipated doing. I thought that was going to be like 5 minutes tops. I had some feelings to get out there, all right? Starting to doubt James has any idea what is going on with queer Marxism and reproductive theory and just calls it all woke and groomer. Yeah, I'm starting to think that too, and I don't like that. I really, 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 really don't, but I'm but a lowly psychologist that just dabbles in this stuff in my spare time, and remember, I don't really know what I'm talking about because I don't bend the knee to Moms for Liberty bullshit. All right. That's all I had to say about that. I think I made my point clear. Now we can get down to our orders of business and we can get back on track. The very first thing we're going to watch, guys, is called Gender Expansive Webinar. And let me just get the sound set up. And now all the people who only came because I was doing a rant about James Lindsay, they left. They left. They came to defend James's honor, and then when the real work happens, they all leave because they're all gonna go run and tattle to James and be like, Ken's complaining about you and her feeding him, beep, 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 and they're gonna be sending him clips. But James, you're welcome to come to the stream and learn anytime, buddy. You are welcome to come to the stream and learn. Did I miss a super chat, Naruto? I apologize for missing a super chat. I know this term is far beneath HG Tutor, but when it comes to queer Marxists, HG Tutor is a normie. I know that's far beneath the. I know. Well, listen, man. Queer Marxism is an unhealthy obsession for some of us. And I understand why it's not an unhealthy obsession for HG Tutor. So it's okay for him to be more of a normie on that. It's cool. It doesn't take any of his narcissistic street cred away or anything. Just leave him alone. It's fine. He's like, I mean, at least he's talking about it. I'd prefer he talked about it more. That'd be pretty rad. But at least he's talking about it. All right, guys, let's learn how we are raising gender expansive kids in our first webinar today. Please make sure you mount that like button for me. I do appreciate it. Let's get this party started.
We're going to let folks trickle in. You're here for the Gender Expansive Parenting webinar with Family Equality. And we're going to just wait a couple of minutes until we get started so that folks can join. I've also just enabled the captions, so you should be able to see that, but please go ahead and send a message if you're not seeing that. Okay, and can I get a thumbs up from a panelist if you all are seeing my screen shared?
We did for a second. but it was a document. Yes.
Is this one right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. All right. Well, welcome everybody. We're very excited to have you here on this webinar about gender expansive parenting. My name is Sarah Hyde and I use she and pronouns. I'm the Director of Program Events here at Family Equality, which is the nation's leading nonprofit for current and future LGBTQ+ families. In this work, we know that there are so many different ways to parent in a world that is hostile towards queer and trans people. So we thank you for your interest in parenting beyond the binary. We're really excited to share space tonight for this common goal. A quick note.
Pop quiz for the chat. Let's see if my audience is smarter than James Lindsay's audience. Why are they talking about parenting beyond the binary? Where does that come from? What does that even mean? What do you guys think? Why are we learning? Why does there even exist a webinar called Parenting Beyond the Binary? I'm going to ask a really open-ended question. I don't want to ask any leading questions. I want to prove how smart my audience is today. Why are we watching a webinar called Parenting Beyond the Binary? Because they're trying to remove the nuclear family, because they consider children to be private property, but that's not related to binary, but that is true. Because of social reproduction theory. Why though? Come on, guys. I'm trying to prove that we're all smarter than James Lindsay. You got to give me a little bit more. Come on, give me a little bit more. I know you guys know it. Come on, I know you know it. They're talking about raising non-binary kids, but why? Queer theory, because the nuclear family upholds capitalism. Yes, it does. How does it uphold capitalism? Through social reproduction theory. They want to abolish the gender. They want to abolish gender because it was created by capitalism and upholds the nuclear family. Very good, bot. In a capitalist future, in a communist future, the communist, there is no gender imperative to ban the binary is the parent. Thank you, Kaiwan. I appreciate that. Because the nuclear family upholds the gender binary. Well, no. Strike that. Reverse it. Capitalism created the gender binary. The gender binary created the nuclear family. The nuclear family upholds capitalism. But so maybe in an indirect way, you're right. It is one giant circle, isn't it? But I would say that the gender binary upholds the nuclear family, and they need to abolish the nuclear family in order to abolish capitalism, because if they don't abolish the nuclear family, then they can never disrupt social reproduction theory, which is what the problem of reproduction actually is. The binary needs to go beyond in order to abolish the nuclear family. Not just go beyond, though, Michael. Not just go beyond. They don't want men to exist. They don't want women to exist. So it's not going beyond the binary. It's not saying there are men and women and then there are all these other things. It's abolishing the binary. Abolishing the binary frees us all and makes for a better future free of gender roles. Exactly, Alexis. Well done. Well done. They want to destroy gender in the nuclear family. They want to get rid of gender altogether. They want all kids to be non-binary. Gender is a performance. That comes from drag. That is why Drag Queen Story Hour is a thing. Drag Queen Story Hour is not about grooming kids into sexualization. I mean, there is certainly a little band of like people who like that sort of thing that have attached onto it, but that's not why Drag Queen Story Hour is a thing. Drag Queen Story Hour is a thing to teach children when they're really, really little that gender is a performance that they can change just as easily as changing an outfit, because their goal is to abolish the gender binary. That is the goal of Drag Queen Story Hour. The binary upholds man and woman, and this produces capitalism. Nope, strike that, reverse it. Capitalism produced the gender binary. Capitalism comes first, the gender binary. Remember, guys, capitalism is believed to create all the world's problems, okay? So the origin point for every single quote unquote problem that the left has is capitalism. Everything else trickles down from capitalism. Okay? Does that make sense? Capitalism created the binary. The binary created the nuclear family by putting women in the home to do the oppressive gender roles of having and raising the future generation of proletarian workers. That is social reproduction theory, because societies will reproduce themselves, which is why the nuclear family reproduces capitalism. So they have to disrupt. The nuclear family is the literal means of production of capitalism. That's the means of production that they want to control. Capitalism created the gender binary, which created the nuclear family, which creates future workers to uphold capitalism. Beautiful answer, Nick. Beautiful, beautiful. You guys are doing such a good job. If we remove the binary and push everything as performance, then anyone can be anyone, so the family does not need to be, thus all can be as a whole. Yup, it broadens the collective, doesn't it? Lots of great answers, guys. Awesome answers. The chat is full of them. I'm not going to display them all on the screen because we would be here all day, but everyone give themselves a round of applause. All of you have just explained this concept in more plain English than James Lindsay can ever dare dream. Well done. Well done.